In this tutorial, I'm going to do a complete walkthrough of the iThemes security plugin. The free version is a premium version as well. We're going to do the free version in this tutorial. If you really want the paid version as well, I'll show you a walkthrough for that one as well. So just let me know in the comments down below if you do. But either way, we're getting this walkthrough started right now. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. It's Bjorn from WP Learning Lab, where we help you get better at WordPress so you can earn more for yourself, for your clients, and for your business. If you haven't done so yet, click subscribe, then click the bell notification icon so you don't miss anything. And with that out of the way, let's get this iThemes security plugin set up, configured, and rocking and rolling on your website. I'll see you in the screen capture. We need to install iThemes security. We're going to head over to plugins, click on add new, type in iThemes. The only one is this first one up here. 800,000 installs, great reviews, compatible, recently updated. But like with any plugin, you should probably back up first, just in case, because you never know what will happen. I'm going to click on install now because this is my demo site. So if something happens, make a good tutorial to fix it, but I'm not too concerned on the demo site. Activate once it's installed. And now we have a new menu option on the left-hand side called security. The first thing we'll do is click on security check. So this is going to run a simple install and config process that's going to install and configure things that are most commonly needed for nearly all WordPress sites, including banning users, database backups, local brute force protection, network brute force protection, strong passwords, and WordPress tweaks. If you don't want to have these modules automatically configured, click on close. If you do, click on secure site, and all the configuration things can be changed afterwards. I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to do it so you can see what it looks like, and then you can decide for yourself whether you want to do it. This is saying if we want to activate the network brute force protection system, we have to enter our email address and then either choose yes or no to receive an email and then click on activate. And what this allows you to do, or allows your site to do, is if other sites running iThemes detect a hacker that's trying to brute force their site and they detect the IPs of that hacker or hackers doing it, your site will be automatically notified of this, or your client's site, and they'll be added to your blacklist so they can't attack your site with those same IPs. Usually I activate this. If it causes problems for whatever reason, I deactivate it. Now that all of these are set to green, I'm going to click on close. And then we have a list of all the settings, all the configurable modules that this plugin provides. This is the free version of the plugin. There is a pro version. If you scroll down right to the bottom, we see the things that are grayed out with a little pro tag. Those are part of the pro version. Now, the free version does a lot, and more than likely you don't need any more than the free version. But if the pro version interests you, there's a link to it down below in the description. Take a look at it, but the free version does a lot, so you probably don't even need the pro, like I said. So this first module here, security check, that's the one we're just on. If you click on show details, it shows the list of all the green check marks that we just saw. If some of these are red X's or warning signs for you, make the changes that it suggests, then click on run secure site check again until you get a green check mark. Or you can ignore those options if you don't feel you want those on your site. So ours are all green here, so that's handy. Under the global settings, we see the global settings for a lot of the plugin functions. We can allow it to write to files or not. If you uncheck this, you have to upload stuff manually, which is more secure. But if you do check this, the plugin can write to the WP config and htaccess files. This is the notification email where you want to be notified of things that are going on your site. You can add multiple, one per line. If you do not check this box, you will receive an email for everything that happens on the site. If you check this box, then you get one email with a list of everything that happened in that day. Up to you which one you choose. Backup delivery email. In case this email does not work, what is your backup email? Put it in here. The host lockout message, user lockout message, community lockout message, all of these are just fine. You can keep them how they are, or you can change them if you want to, but the default they have in here is fine. You can also use HTML if you want to in these boxes. The blacklist repeat offender, you should check this box. Basically it means if somebody keeps offending your site, keeps doing things you don't want them to do, like trying to hack your login page, you blacklist them. And these settings down here may look familiar. Limit login attempts reloaded does these same features, so you don't need to have both of those plugins running. You can choose either this one or limit login attempts. Blacklist threshold, after 3 lockouts, they're blacklisted. The blacklist look back period is 7 days, so if they're locked out 3 times in 7 days, then they're blacklisted. You can change this to 1 day if you want. You can change this to 1 day, 20 days, whatever you want. 7 is just the default. The lockout period is 60 minutes. You can again change this to whatever you want. The lockout whitelist is where you add IP addresses of users who can't be locked out. You click on this button to add your own IP, which would auto detects and adds. Now, if anybody else is using this IP as well, say you work at a coffee shop and you want to make your life easier by whitelisting that coffee shop's IP, anybody else using that IP will be whitelisted on your site. That might not be a big deal, just something to be aware of. This option allows you to receive an email when someone is locked out. I usually don't keep this checked. It comes as part of the log, the email digest that we chose at the beginning, so I don't check this separately. Log type, database or file, which is a file on the server. I usually put it in the database. The number of days to keep data in the log, defaulted to 14 days. If you set this to 0, it'll stay forever, and that will cause your database to grow and grow and grow. But at 10 megabytes, the logs will be rotated. This means that the log table can't grow uncontrollably and take over your whole database. So choose whatever number you need here for how much backwards data you think you want. If you use a file instead of a database, then you could set this to 0 and just download those files every once in a while and allow a fresh one to be made. That way you have all the back data and you don't need to worry about your database growing uncontrollably. So choose the one you feel is right for you. The path, this is where the log files will go if you choose log files. You can also change this file, so you could call this, or you could put it just directly into the uploads folder, for example. So it's going to be uploads/logs would be a directory. Inside the directory is where those logs will go. You can put it right in the root of your website if you want. You can change it however you like. If you want to restore that original path, just click on this button. Now that original path that we saw earlier is in here. You can allow data tracking, which anonymously sends information to iThemes so they can improve their plugin. Choose that or don't choose that. It's up to you. Override proxy protection. If you are not using a service like Varnish or Cloudflare or something else, you can check this for more accurate IP detection. If you are using those other services, don't check this because they can conflict. Hide the security menu bar. This is checked by default. If you uncheck this, which I'm going to do right now, when I save changes, there's going to be a security bar that shows up here. I have to refresh too though. Show error codes. Show error codes. This is the same as a debug option. You'd only want to use this if something is going wrong and you want to figure out why. So by default, it's off. And the reason you want to turn it off is because if there's somebody else that's not you who is trying to do some bad things to your site, they can see these error messages as well and possibly find vulnerabilities using these messages. So by default, they are off. I'm going to click on Save Changes here. Now, if I refresh this page, we have our security link show up here. It's the same menu options as we have on the side, just another way to get to it. So you can either have that there or not if you find it's too cluttered. And again, to turn that off, go into Global Settings, go to the very bottom, check Hide Security menu and admin bar, click on Save Settings, and then refresh the page. I'm going to enable the 404 detection module. I'm going to click on Configure Settings, and what this allows is for you to shut down or blacklist anybody who repeatedly receives 404 pages. Now the reason this would happen, usually, if you keep your site well maintained and you fix any broken links and you add redirects where you need to for pages that are moved or something like that, if someone is hitting a lot of 404s, that means they're probing, they're phishing. They're looking for a page with a vulnerability. There are vulnerability databases out there that will list vulnerable files and pages that are within plugins and themes. And if someone is checking for those things, they're going to keep getting 404s over and over if your website does not have those plugins or themes. And that is why getting many 404s in a short amount of time is usually an indication of somebody looking for something that will allow them to harm your website. So that's why this module exists. These settings here are a refresher of the ones that we set in Global Settings a moment ago. Down below are additional ones. So the minutes to remember a 404 error is 5 minutes. So if they hit 2 404s within 5 minutes, it's going to register as 2. But if it takes them 10 minutes to hit 2 404s, it's just going to register as 1 404 error. So the amount of time, the closer the time period here, the more liberal you are, so the less people you're going to block. If you set this to 300 minutes, that means there's a lot of time in there where somebody can trigger multiple 404s and be potentially banned. So 5 minutes is the default. Changes however you feel you need it to. The longer the time period, the more harsh your security is going to be, or the more secure your site's going to be, I should say. Error threshold. After 20 404 errors, they will be locked out. If you set this to 0, you will have 404 errors that are registered. So you get an error log of 404s, but nobody's going to be locked out. Down below, we have the whitelist folder. So if somebody's hitting your favicon, robots.txt, or these other image files, these ones are on my server, they probably wouldn't be on yours. Bunch of other things that may or may not be on your site. These have been automatically put into the whitelist here. If people are accessing these ones, it won't register a 404 because they're whitelisted. File types to ignore are image files and CSS files. You could also add in movie files here if you want, or even PDF files, because those generally don't relate to vulnerabilities. After you have all those settings set, click on Save Changes, and now we have a 404 detection module installed. The away mode is pretty cool. I'm going to enable that. Click on Configure Settings. What this allows you to do is set a time period each day where you are not there, where you're not going to be logging in. So if you know that you sleep from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day and you never log into your website during that time, you can set that as your away period, which disables your admin for that time period. So you can set the restriction to daily or one-time restriction. One time allows you to set the dates as well. So say you're going on vacation, you could set this as a one-time. One time means just one time for now. Like if you go on vacation this month, then you go for another one next year, you just update the dates and it will be one time for that time period. Doing it daily, again, allows you to set times during the day. If you find that you log into your site whenever you need to, or you do it all the time and it's random throughout the day, or if you have people from all over the world accessing your sites and they're in all different time zones, don't turn this on. So that may or may not be for you, but it's a pretty cool feature. I'm going to disable this for my site here. Banned users on automatically. This is a list of banned users. These ones are pre-filled. I didn't add these in. The plugin hasn't been installed long enough to have these put in here by the plugin itself. So these are more than likely network detected, as in these hosts have caused problems on other websites, so they've automatically been enabled here. This first checkbox allows you to add in a default blacklist from hackrepair.com, probably a smart move. There's the ban lists, which enables ban lists, and again, these banned hosts are in that ban list. Banned user agents, you can add these in as you go. User agents are basically a signal that tells the internet what type of device you're using, and you can fib on user agents. So if you have an Android smartphone, your user agent will say something like Android and then have the version number that you're running on your phone. Or it will show iOS and the version number. It might even show your phone brand in the user agent. So most people don't see user agents, but like I said, the WordFence plugin does show user agent data. So if you find these weird user agents that aren't explained and they keep doing bad things on your site, you can add them here manually if you want to, one per line. I'm going to keep these settings as they are. Click on Save Settings. And we have our brute force protection that was automatically configured. And basically, this is the limit login attempts functionality again. So you can keep that how it is. Database backups, pretty self-explanatory. These are database backups. You can click on this button to create a backup right now. So if you click on there, just to show you what happens. And because we just installed the plugin, a backup is currently being created, so we can't do another one right now. You can check this box to do a full database backup. What this means is there might be tables in your WordPress site that are not part of the site's function. Because it's a MySQL database, you can go in and manually add tables if you want. I've seen larger companies that do a lot of custom development on their sites with tables in their database that aren't part of their site. So they might want this option, but for normal users like you and me, this doesn't matter because we don't have any extra tables that aren't being used by WordPress. The backup method You can choose to have the backup emailed to you, saved locally, as in on the server, or both. I choose email because I don't like to keep stuff on the server, because if a hacker does get access to the server, they can mess around with my backup without telling me. And then if I have to restore my site, I might be restoring a hacked version of the site, which is not great. So I prefer to get them via email. Number of backups to retain. If you have this at 0, it keeps all backups. In the case of email, it doesn't really matter because they're being emailed to you. They're not taking up server space. But if you have a limited amount of server space and your database is fairly large, it can add up really quickly if you have your schedule backups very frequently. So I would not set this to 0. I'd set this to something like, depends on your backup schedule actually. So if you back up once a day, maybe have this set to 7. So you have 7 days of backups. So if your site is hacked, hopefully you notice it within 7 days, then you can restore your database because you have a clean one. If you don't think you notice it within 7 days, maybe have this longer, have this 14 days, 30 days. Just make sure you have enough space on your server to keep those files if you're doing it on the server. If you're doing it via email, this doesn't really apply because it doesn't save backups on the server. Do you want to compress your backup files? Probably smart. Save space. This is important for email or saving on the server, just to save space. Excluded tables. This is going to be a list of tables that the plugin does not back up. So by default, it has 3 tables. These are iThemes security tables. So the plugin itself is saying don't include these tables that are related to me. You can not do this if you want. You can check these or click on them and they leave the excluded tables field. You can click on any other ones and they're put back into that field. So exclude the tables you want to exclude. If you're not sure, keep all your tables. I'm just going to put the iThemes ones back. If I can find them quickly. It's alphabetical. I think it wouldn't be that hard. Okay, there they are. So I put those back in. And then do we want to schedule database backups? Usually smart, because if you can do things automatically, that means you don't have to be thinking about them. Backup interval, every 3 days. That works for me. If you are publishing a lot of content to your site, you want to back up more regularly. So if you're publishing 1 post a day, I would back it up once a day. If you're publishing 1 post a week, back it up once a week. Because if you're only making a change once a week, all your backups are going to look the exact same. Whether they're made on the Monday or the Friday, it doesn't matter. It's all the same backup because you didn't make any changes till Sunday when you publish your posts. So your backup interval will depend on how much content or how many changes you make to your website in a given week or month. That will determine your backup schedule. When you have all these settings set, click on Save Settings. Next up is file change detection. This is very important stuff. I'm going to enable that. Click on Configure Settings. So the reason this is important is because when someone gets into your site or hacks your server, they're going to want to change something. Otherwise, there's no point in them being there. They're going to either add a file, going to edit a file, delete a file. They're doing something to achieve their goals after hacking your site. So the file change detection allows you to detect which files they've changed, deleted, removed, added, whatever. So you can scan files now right after installing this plugin, but likely nothing's changed in the last 5 minutes, so it's not that important that we do that. Splitting file scanning. This is important because you break up your file scanning over 7 chunks throughout the day, so you're not using all your server resources all at the same time for an extended period to scan all your files. So breaking it up is smart. You can choose to exclude files and folders. So you can either include the ones that you select here or you exclude them, depending on which option you choose. This is where you choose the files. Just click on this minus here, and that will add the file to this field. And in my case, I chose to exclude selected. So this will be excluded from our scan. So what you choose here will affect what happens down here. Just going to remove this. Not going to exclude any files. Going to check for all files to be changed. We could ignore file extensions that are found in this list. Image files, log files, MO and PO, I'm actually not sure what those are. You could probably add PDF files in here, movie files, video files, because those likely won't be changed. And even if they are, they likely won't cause any problems on your server itself. Email file changes to you or somebody else is very important because if a file change is detected, you'll want to know about it. Do you want to know about it in your admin as well? If you do, check this box and you'll be notified when you log into your site. If you have all the settings you like, click on Save Changes. Now we'll check out the file permissions by clicking on Show Details, load file permissions details, and this shows some of the important files and their settings on the server. It has in this column the suggested file permissions, and in this column it has the actual file permissions. So we're getting a warning because this one is 750, should be 755. And to make these changes, we have to log into our hosting account. Just going to quickly log in there. So in the cPanel for your website, go into the file manager, or you can go via FTP as well if you're more comfortable that way. And we go into the public_HTML folder, so we see all the files on the server. If we refer back to our list here, let's change the htaccess permissions from 644, which is the current value, to 444. To do that, find the htaccess file, or any file or folder you want to change. Right click on it, click on Change Permissions, and we want to take off this right permission. Now we have a 444. If you're not sure which ones to turn off and on, just check these boxes and watch the numbers change until you get the one that you're supposed to have. So now, right now I have 767, which is this configuration. And 444 is allowing read only to everybody. Click on Change Permissions. When you have those set on the right hand side, we can confirm they are currently 444. We hop back into here, click on Reload File Permissions Details, and now we have 444 for htaccess, and we are, in this column, and we are okay. So you can update these file permissions to make sure they are what iThemes suggests. If you want to be extra safe, update them one at a time. Go to your site and make sure it still loads and works properly. Because if you change these file permissions to the wrong thing, your site won't load. For example, the same htaccess file, let's change the permission to not allow read to the world, so we're at 440. Refresh the page, site won't load. So your file permissions can take down your website, so make sure you have the right ones. Luckily, if that does happen, you can just come back in here, turn the one on that you turned off, click on Change Permissions, refresh the page, and it's back to normal. And that, of course, is a lot easier to do if you make these changes one at a time. Make the change, test your site, see if it's still up. If it's not up, you know it was something that you just did a moment ago that broke it. Undo what you did, and your site's back. Moving on from file permissions, we have network brute force protection. Click on Configure Settings, and this is the one that we activated earlier, which allows iThemes to communicate with its server to import a bunch of blacklisted IPs to your site when it's needed. So if iThemes detects on other websites there are certain IPs or certain IP ranges that are causing problems and they need to be blacklisted, they can be blacklisted on your site automatically. So in this checkbox here, you don't have to worry about the API key, but in this checkbox here, you can ban reported IPs either automatically or you'll be notified and you can choose to ban them if you want to. Automatically is the safest. Click on Save Settings. There's an SSL module that I'm going to enable, but I don't have SSL on this website. So what you need to do is have SSL on your site, otherwise these settings don't work. So for the front end SSL mode, currently set to off. You can have it on per content, which is just the blog posts and pages and stuff like that, or the entire site. Everything has an SSL, which is the best thing to do. But like I said, I'm not going to do that right now because I don't have an SSL on this demo site. Force SSL for your dashboard. I would check that to yes as well. It's saying, are you sure you want to do this? Your server does not support SSL because I don't have one. So I'm just going to cancel that. Make sure you have an SSL certificate, then turn these on because they're very important. I'm going to click on Disable on the bottom to disable that module, and then click on the X. Strong password enforcement, always a smart idea. If we configure settings, we choose the minimum role that must choose a strong password. So the user roles we have here go from most permissions, most privileges, to the least, subscriber being the lowest level on this site. If you choose subscriber in this dropdown, that means a subscriber will have to choose a strong password, and so will every level above them. If you choose contributor, then contributor has to do a strong password, subscriber does not, but every level above contributor, including contributor, has to. Choose editor, same thing. Author, contributor, subscriber do not need strong passwords. Editor and administrator do. I usually keep this at contributor. Click on save settings. Now we have our system tweaks module. Go to click on enable and configure settings. Now these are tweaks that allow you to further secure your site. And there's a lot of explanations for these, so read through the explanations if you're not sure. For the system files, do we want to prevent public access to things like README files, config files, htaccess files? And this is almost always a yes. One thing I forgot to say about these system tweaks, you want to make sure you also do these one at a time, because there can be conflicts, there can be a lot of issues depending on your server and website configuration. Some sites you can check all of these and there's no problems. Other sites, various things in here may cause problems. So if you're doing this live on your site, you shouldn't do it on production sites, you should do this in some kind of test environment first. But if you do this, click on save settings with every change you make, go to your site, refresh it, navigate around a little bit, make sure the content's still appearing how it should, make sure the links work, just make sure the site works. Then come back in here and choose the next one, do the same thing. That's the safest way to do it. Directory browsing, almost always want to disable that. I can't think of a time when you don't want that disabled. Filter request methods, this blocks out bad request methods that are suspicious. Suspicious query strings, often people or hackers inject content in your database using very long query strings. Filter those out by turning that off. Filter out non-English characters. If your site is entirely in English, you can filter out non-English characters because those should not appear on your site and they're often used in hacker scripts. If your site does have non-English characters, do not turn this on because then your site won't work properly. Long URL strings, also a bad idea, filter those out. File writing permissions, remove writing permissions. This is the same as the directory permissions earlier. If you went through and fixed all the permissions that it listed as being problematic, you don't really need this, but I'd check it anyway just in case. Just in case I missed a couple files or something, I always have this checked. Disable uploads or disable PHP in the uploads folder, PHP and plugins, and PHP and themes. I check those, again, one at a time, because disabling these can cause some problems on your site because some plugins do need PHP execution. Some themes need it. Maybe you have some kind of special thing in your uploads folder that needs it. So it depends on your site configuration. When you're all done, click on Save Settings one last time. And now we have our WordPress Tweaks module, which is turned on. Let's see what they did here. These are just additional security tweaks. Windows Live Writer, which is a method to publish from a third-party program to WordPress. You can remove the header for this, which is just in your source code, which a hacker can take advantage of. So remove that header, remove the edit URI, which allows your site to interact with XML RPC services like Flickr, or even third-party posting. So we can remove that if we don't use that. Reduce comment spam by disallowing comments from bots that don't have a referrer, or without a user agent that's a real user agent. Disable the file editor. So over in appearance, actually it's turned off already. So I'm just going to enable that. And you'll see under appearance, there's going to be an editor link that appears. Under plugins as well, when I save this. The XML RPC feature, disabling this is recommended because this is another attack vector for brute force attacks. So if you do not use your XML RPC, or your client doesn't, disable it. Multiple authentication attempts per XML RPC. Block those because you're trying to access this file, especially if you know this file isn't being used, select block. REST API, recommend or choose the recommended option, which is restricted access. Replace jQuery with a safe version. Check this. This setting may cause problems on your site, so when you save this, you should just make this one change, save it, make sure your site works as expected. Turn off login error messages, which is important. This is when someone tries to log in and it says something like, the password you chose is not the correct password for this user, which implies the username is correct. So they've guessed the correct username. If you have this checked, it does not show that correct username message. Force a unique nickname when someone signs up. I usually turn that on. Disable extra user archives. Disable that. Protect against tab napping. I turn that on. It's a type of phishing attack that's associated with links that have an underscore blank. You can read more about it in this article right here. And when you have all your settings done, click on Save Settings. And then we head over to the last one in the free version. the WP salts. These are basically character strings inside your WP config file that are used to make passwords more secure. So there's no reason to not turn this on. When you do turn it on, you may have to sign in to your WordPress site again. So as soon as I save these settings and then try to go to a different page, actually no, it's going to log me out right there. Then we log in again, and now we have a more secure password set up because it used salts to update our password. It doesn't update the actual password you type in, it just updates it in the database and makes it more secure, harder to hack. So now we have everything except for the away mode and the SSL mode enabled. And that's it for the free version of the plugin. As you saw, there's a lot of stuff. You don't really need the pro version unless you have very advanced requirements or you have a client that has advanced requirements. But you can also get some of this stuff for free. For example, malware scanning. You can use a third-party website to scan for malware, or you can use Sucuri, use their site scan option. reCAPTCHA, you can use the Google reCAPTCHA plugin, that's free. Two-factor authentication, you can use the Mini Orange plugin with the Google Authenticator, do that for free. There's a lot of stuff in here that you could do for free, or you can buy the pro version, it's up to you, but the free version does a heck of a lot. And I recommend that once you know what you're doing, once you know all the stuff that's going on with WordPress security, use this plugin to make your security life faster, easier, more automated, and easier to maintain. So that's how we use the iThemes security plugin. I hope this video helps you. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below this video. If you haven't done so yet, click subscribe, then click the bell notification icon so you don't miss anything. And next up is clicking one of these videos that popped up on the right hand side so you can get even better at WordPress. And until next time, keep crushing it, and I will see you in the next video.